Farrenc at 150, a celebration and a reckoning. I said this morning, but I welcome back the people who were at the concert this morning, and I welcome the people who are coming now for this one. I'm very, very pleased to see you here. And again, I want to thank all the presenters and performers, scholars, performers, who have come here and who have wanted to participate in this initiative that is very dear to my heart. And I know there is a lot of effort behind it. I want to thank especially, to the composers as well, who have composed pieces for this occasion, for today, for this salon, in the style that Louise Farrenc used to program her concerts, by pairing up earlier and contemporary works. So just a little introduction about her for people who were not this morning at the event. Louise Farrenc, born Dumont, was a composer, a pianist, a teacher, an editor, and an advocate for women's equality in the music field. 150 years ago, in 1875, she died in Paris. Her legacy, like that of so many women in the arts, has lived a fragmented life, remembered briefly and forgotten often. Today we come together not just to remember Farrenc, but to reimagine the contours of a musical world she inhabited and reshaped. And for that, this weekend symposium is bringing together all these lovely people, including you, the audience, and I invite you also to engage and ask questions and engage in conversations with each other. I also have to acknowledge the generous and continuous support of the Cornell Center for Historical Keywords and Director Roger Mosley, and the Cornell Department of Music, the Cornell Council for the Arts, and the Central New York Corridor for Humanities from the Mellon Foundation that are making this symposium possible. And also thank you to the many helping hands, including Tom Sayers and Ken Walker, who take excellent care of the incredible piano collection of CCHK. Today we are using this piano and this instrument here, which is also part of a collection coming from the future. So the piano is Broadwood, which it's been debated, the date. So the most recent update about the year of this piano, I think is 1836. Correct me. It's good. Okay. Because it used to be, we used to think that it was 49, and before that, another date. So it's been debated, but now this summer we had this big festival, and a lot of technicians and builders, restorers debated about this, and now they've come to this conclusion, so I'm sure it's right. In any case, the piano is an English piano. It's very appropriate for this music, even though it's French, because French and English pianos have the same kind of mechanics and the same kind of rounded resonant sound. So it is really perfect for the music of Louise Farrenc. And this other instrument here is a new acquisition of CCHK. It's called Lumatone. And it's maybe, I think Igor maybe can say something more about it. Because I want to present Igor Santos, who is an assistant professor in composition at Cornell, who has written a piece for Lumatone and piano for this salon. So please welcome Igor with an applause. And
so just hello, good evening. Thank you for being here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. First of all, the commission from Patricia was a very welcoming gesture, which I really appreciate. And I can say that from both Patricia and from Roger Mosley and the CCHK, they have been nothing but supportive. Everything I've asked in terms of like, can I borrow this instrument? Can I try this? Can I go to the studio? I've never been answered with a no. It's been a pleasure. And this instrument, the Lumatone, it has 280 keys. and it is usually it's the most popular of what we call the isomorphic keyboards, meaning that the distance between the notes it's all the same. So for example, if you play piano or keyboards, you know that if you play a C major scale, the fingering is different from a D flat major scale. In the case of a Lumatone, the finger would be exactly the same. Position for a major chord will always stay the same. Diminished will always stay the same. And there's a bit of a challenge in terms of when everything looks the same, how you navigate yourself here. And hence the name Lumatone, these lighted keys. And if you look at the keyboard here, you'll see that there's different colors, and it's bespoke to this little composition that I wrote. It's a 5-8 piece, by the way. And the colors have a certain meaning. They do certain things in my piece, but they could be set up to however your imagination desires. But I won't give you too much away. Maybe just play the piece. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Much. So while we set up for the next, I just want to say that also Louise Farrenc was always ahead of her time. When she was only 15, she turned to Anton Reicha, professor at the Conservatory of Paris, for private composition lessons in a time where vocal performance was still the only expected professional career for a woman. While the few women composers were constrained to two genres, the romance and the operetta, Farrenc bravely explored many other genres and instrumentation colors. Particularly interesting is her use of winds, also in a time where still wind playing was highly inappropriate for women. But please, let's welcome Rachel Nierenberg, horn player in the Quodlibet Historical Wind Quintet, guest ensemble for this symposium, who will be telling you more about this. And then she will be joined by the other wonderful members of the quintet, Kelsey, Pablo, Elise, and Aaron.
Thank you so much for being here, and we're so pleased to be here. I wanted to take a moment to thank Patricia and Cornell for bringing us all the way up from New York City to perform some of our favorite music. This evening I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of women and wind playing, so we can have some context for how unusual and enterprising Farrenc's Sextet really was, the piece we'll play at the end of the program. Women have been excluded from professional wind playing for many centuries, but I would like to start at the Renaissance, which is a time when modern European ideals, tastes, and opinions were sort of being shaped and formed. During this time, thinkers were rediscovering the works of ancient Greece, and classical art, writing, and thought were celebrated as sort of civilization's greatest achievements. So along that theme, I wanted to tell a widely told ancient Greek story, one that was rewritten, translated, and interpreted into many languages in many European cities. The story goes like this. The goddess Athena once took great pleasure in playing the pipes. The pipes are a general word for any kind of wind instrument, unspecified. Could be any number of wind instruments. And one day she was playing by a pool or a fountain when she spied her reflection in the water. And when she saw the terribly ugly contortion her face had to make as she played, she became so incredibly embarrassed that she threw the pipes into the water. And that was the end of that. So in Giovanni della Casa's treatise on manners from 1559, he reflected that, quote, "She truly did the right thing, for it is not an instrument for women, and in fact is equally unsuitable for men unless they be of such low rank that they do it professionally and for payment." So this tells us a little bit about how highly wind players were esteemed as well, but we'll get into that a little later. This was not the only book of manners from Europe instructing all people of sophistication, and especially women, not to play wind instruments. Getting back to this idea of beauty, even in Farrenc's time, truly the best thing a woman could be was beautiful. And I leave it up to you to decide how much that has changed between then and now. But this concept goes back to the very classical belief that external beauty was really just a reflection of someone's inner character, morality, and purity. No one of the aristocratic class, but especially a lady, should be playing an instrument that would make you contort your face in such an unpleasing manner. In De la Casa's treatise, we see that it's not just an issue of sex, but also of class. Wind instruments were seen as being unrefined, harsh, or a nicer word that I like to use is rustic. And this was not only because of the way they make your face look when you play it, but also because of the volume. Loud instruments in general were deemed unfit for courtly men and certainly unfit for women and ladies. But of course, if manners books were telling women and men of sophistication not to play wind instruments, it means that it must have been going on somewhere. And we do have accounts of women playing wind instruments, mostly in all female communities such as convents. There are a wide variety of records ranging from diary entries to payment accounts remaining from convents all across Europe, though surprisingly not from France, which is interesting. And it's clear that in many of these convents there was music going on at a very, very high level. Convents were a respectable place where well-to-do families could send their daughters without having to pay as much as they would on a wedding or a dowry. But it was also a place where less wealthy families with smaller dowries could send their daughters to do practical work. Now, if this nun turned out to be particularly musically talented, she could fulfill that obligation by making more of a musical contribution. So this sort of became a way for women who didn't necessarily come from the very upper echelons of society to sort of have a career of sorts in music. The Venetian conservatories, which started in the 16th century and lasted through at least the 18th century, were also a place that allowed young women to study. Boys and girls were admitted and separated at age 10, but the girls could still be taught the same instruments. So by Farrenc's time, there was a really rich culture of amateur instrumentalists, and with a few exceptions, most female musicians came out of that tradition. And still, the loud, piercing instruments that we all play were sort of still deemed unfit for these private settings. In 19th century France, also, many of these instruments were celebrated in military wind bands, and any association with women that women had with the military would have been a little absurd and not appropriate. So before we bring you the first movement of Reicha's Opus 100, number 3, I wanted to briefly bring back the idea that winds were rustic instruments. Reicha was a prolific and celebrated composer, writer, and teacher, but of all of his accomplishments, he considered his greatest achievements to be his pedagogical contributions and his compositions for wind quintet. Wind instruments have long been considered lesser to the keyboard and string instruments, and Reicha really strove to elevate the status of the wind family. So it's no wonder that Farrenc, his student, wrote so poetically for the wind ensemble, and I hope you enjoy the first movement of Reicha's Opus 100, number 3, and perhaps you can imagine the kind of inspiration that Louise would have drawn from it. I hope you enjoy.
So again, in the meantime, while we change a little bit more of background of Farrenc. From a young age, she had a very special relationship with this type of events that we are living today. She was part of lively musical soirees at the artist colony where she and her family lived, including informal outdoor concerts where she would dance. And then these other more formal indoor concerts where she accompanied and played piano. Aristide Farrenc, later her husband, was a musician attending these parties. Aristide, initially trained for a career in commerce, decided to enroll in the conservatoire, both in flute and oboe. So here's another connection between Farrenc and in instruments. And then he started to compose some modest pieces, but especially by the 1820s, he had his own publishing house. In the same year, 17 years old Louise Dumont married him. Together, they developed this prestigious reputation as publishers, at first interested in showcasing contemporary music. In 1825, they acquired all the publishing rights for the music of Hummel. The presence of this renowned composer attracted the audience to attend the soirees organized by the Farrenc in Paris, sometimes in their apartments, sometimes in these, at the time, modest salles like Salle Pleyel, Salle Erard. Many times, the skillful pianist Victorine, who was the Farrenc's daughter, would premiere her mother's works. Today, I'm honored to present another newly, freshly baked composition dedicated to me, thank you so much, by Chenghao Michalis. This is called Preludes for Color, and I invite you to scan the code. If you haven't done it now, it's on the program, because there is a painting that is very beautiful and is where Michalis has taken inspiration from. But this is on the virtual program, if you scan the code. So, like composers today, although maybe for different reasons, Louise Farrenc had to become her own business agent. In her case, her position at the conservatory, while renowned, did not support women in composition. It was not until 1879 that women were admitted to the harmony class at the conservatoire, and even then they remained ineligible to compete for the Prix de Rome. So she organized her own soirees and managed the invitees. She also spent time asking other concert series to audition and program her works. In Brussels, she found a supporter in Fetis. His orchestra premiered Farrenc's first symphony, receiving great critiques. I quote, "A woman has successfully negotiated the intricate and serious path created by Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven." Fetis, who shared with the Farrencs a passion for early music, regularly presented his concert historiques, where music was accompanied by explanatory notes. Later, Aristide, Farrenc's husband, much more of a serious scholar, would quite harshly criticize Fetis' series. He said, "Today is not enough for history to be interesting in order to warrant the attention of serious minds. It must also be true." Aristide was anticipating what we have to come to understand as historically informed performance by relying on primary sources like manuscripts and treatises, and of course by using citations and regularly published articles. His meticulous notes are preserved at the BNF, Bibliothèque Nationale de France. But going back to Louise, who was very successful when presenting her music, think of the kind of pressure she must have felt at her home institution, where she had been a full professor since 1842, that she would not pursue equality in her salary until 1850. And only then, encouraged by the success of her symphonies in Paris and Belgium, the ovations of her nonette, the fact that the Paris Conservatory had adopted her etudes as part of the curriculum, only then she found courage to claim what was fair. A brave act in a patronizing society that in the best of cases would compliment her with phrases like, "It is such a rarity for a woman to compose symphonies of real talent that she deserves encouragement." Her Sextet for piano and winds was also very well received in its premiere towards the end of 1852, although it was not until 1856 that was performed as part of a major concert series, La France Musicale, where it was described as full of poetic and novel ideas. So we will hear it now, finally.